Welcome back to the stratosphere, and we are going to be sorting out the window. Yeah. Mainly because we have no idea still about what we're going to do about the rest of it, the belts and the alternator. So I'm not quite sure whether I need to take the whole panel off, which would be a bit of a palaver, including the handle, which I really don't want to do. Because those kind of things end up being fiddly. Or maybe I just loosen off a couple of the top bolts there and drop it down and see, just peel it back, see what's getting in the way, see what's fouling that extraordinarily sophisticated window mechanism. Yes. Anyway, quick shot of the footwells because they're quite pretty, aren't they? So I've had a few questions about legroom and height and everything else involved with owning a Stratos, Lister Bell particularly. And actually before I even started contemplating in all seriousness getting one, one gentleman was very kind enough to let me sit in his at the Silverstone Classic show. I can't remember his name, but thank you very much again. And yeah, so I'm 6'2", and most of my height is in my legs. I have lowered floor pans specifically, which we'll take a look at outside. It's an optional extra or part of the spec from Lister Bell. And you can see, you know, my knees are right up here. So it's not comfortable for a long journey. But, you know, it was 2 hours back from Phoenix the other day. And that's kind of long enough in one stint. Thank you very much. But they do not interfere with the steering wheel. And, of course, you could potentially adjust that. Probably by getting a dished wheel that brought it out a little bit further, like we have in the race car. And actually, my butt's not as far back as I sit in the seat. So, yeah, that's kind of the angle of the legs. I wish I could show you a nicer pair of legs, but then they wouldn't be the long, lanky legs that I've got. So that's that. And then at the same time, head height is, let's take a look at that. Yes, as you can see, plenty of headroom. Even with a ridiculous hairstyle like mine. Yeah, so no worries. There's those vents I keep talking about. Yes, so the air scoop literally is just funneling air in your face at 70 miles an hour, or whatever you happen to be doing at the time. But yeah, brilliant. Definitely a must. And what a beautiful headliner. Lovely. And there you can see the lowered floor pan that tapers off to the front, and that actually, you know, just that couple of inches makes a difference. So yeah, if you're a lanky git like me, order the lowered floor pan. That's what you need. Anyway, just had a quick call with Mike at IDR about the whole alternator, AC compressor stuff. He's off to see his AC man tomorrow. He's going to show him the pictures, ask him what the hell happened. Because it's basically a brand new unit. We couldn't get the old Alpha unit reconditioned. We bought a brand new unit. We shimmed something and did something else. And anyway, it was close enough to the original that we used a brand new part. So if that's disintegrated, then that's not good. Anyways, give me some things to look at, and I shall be doing that, as well as taking the remainder of the door panel off. Being careful not to let everything fall out of it, because as long as the door handle and everything stays in place, it shouldn't need repositioning and readjusting. So watch this space. So I'm thinking I might need a glamorous assistant for this, and my usual not so glamorous assistant is down in Phoenix. Yes, Mr. Molesworth. I might have to call on some other friends who are capable of holding a door panel while I work out what washer I need and where. I'm not sure where. It's something to do with that, I think. Is it this washer? This washer here, I think. Mike said might be too big.
Meantime,
Monkey found this in the garage. Yeah, doesn't look very happy, does he? I'm going to put him outside. So we've correctly identified the problem in that washer there behind the door panel is too big to go through those two nuts. So what we need is, see, same problem down there. What we need, and I think I found the perfect solution, is one that's just big enough, so it's bigger than the slot to stop the bolt falling through all the way through, and small enough to go through the bolts that hold it in place, and just big enough. I think that's going to do the job. I think that's perfect. I've got a slightly bigger one if I need it, but that's got a bigger orifice as well, and that'll wobble around a bit, and that'll be annoying. But I think that's the boy. So now I need to just take the door panel off carefully. Scary lighting, isn't it? There we have it. One window fixed, one door broken. Well, no, just one. Again, quality, honestly. Quality apart from that one broke. Quality putting together from Mr. Bell. Fitted perfectly, everything lined up. I'm guessing it's just because this panel's been off about a dozen times already, that the rivet nut behind in the fiberglass basically just fell out. So, bummer. Anyway, as you can see, one fully shut window. Hope it doesn't rain. Maybe it needs to come up a bit more. I think it does. Never mind, just needed winding up a bit more. Unlike me, I am fully wound. Well, I was, because the whole belt thing was rather disheartening, and especially with the copper wires poking out of the AC compressor and the entanglement of the alternator. But Mike assures me that he'll come and fix it. Yes, he's coming all the way to Sedona this time, probably, unless we can get it back to him somehow, but he hasn't really got the room. Anyway, he's talking to his AC guy, because AC systems themselves are pretty bloody complicated animals. So he's talking to his experts to find out what might have happened, and we'll get back to you with news on that later. Meanwhile, I have been talking to my my friend Steph in the UK, Mr. Fiat 500, Mr. Italian car specialist, vis-a-vis the Speedo Sensor, and there it is. And I've also been looking up on some Alpha forums, because it is a standard Alpha 164 part, and it has a propensity to shear off, or I don't know, break. Anyway, there's a little plastic bit, see, which fits onto the transmission and whirs round at a million miles an hour and tells the speedo how fast you're going. So yeah, not the best solution, really. I mean, it's almost analog, right? It's almost like an old motorbike. Yeah, this old motorbike. Yeah, that's actually the rev counter there. It goes in there. Yes. And the speedo used to go on the hub, which is now outside because this is off a GSXR. Because this is a Honda CB750 from 1978. Anyway, that's another project, and you should be watching that too. You can never have enough projects. Oh, come on, I can have a little bit of fun. And while we're there, I thought I'd tidy that up. Yeah, it's a little bit scruffy. It's original Alpha 164, and it just needs a coat of matte black paint. So let's get that done. Or actually, just a clean up. Yeah, I cleaned it up to paint it, and it's like, that'll do. Yeah. Jeez. Okay, this morning we are removing the AC compressor and alternators so that they can go back to IDR to be examined and repaired. And we're making an early start. My glamorous assistant has got me up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I haven't even finished my second cup of coffee.
I have not signed any documentation to make this a legal procedure.
And with the aid of a special device, this special device, we took all the freon out of the system, except there wasn't any in it, which is interesting. So that's something else to investigate. So we've loosened off the actual pipes, so they're finger tight, ready to come off. dislodge it. We just have to work out where that little red cable goes and disconnect that. So first off, we dropped out the AC compressor, which is those two big bolts there, and then one which is now out at the top there. And it just dropped out the bottom. Lovely. Having snipped that wire, which we're going to reroute because it goes all the way under there, and yeah, that's complicated, isn't it? So the alternator required that undoing, and then the main power cable down there. Obviously disconnecting the battery before we did that. And this is the standard Alpha 164 mount. So there's a bolt that goes through there on the right hand side, and then that long bolt down there, and that dropped out the hole down there. Lovely. Well done, Mr. Bell, making everything so accessible. So they're on their way to IDR, where Mike will untangle the belts from the alternator. He will get probably a new AC compressor and try and determine what went wrong, and then he's coming up here to put more back. And the plan is to run it without the AC for a bit, because it worked fine without that, and we just want to get back to ground zero, as it were, where everything was reliable, and run it around for a bit, make sure everything's okay, and that will determine potentially what went wrong. Although it might just be simply a question of taking the compressor to the AC guys and them going, oh yeah, there's this. In which case we'll rectify that situation and plug it all back in. So yes, while those two straggly wires are unplugged, I'm going to pull them out the other end and reroute them somewhere for more accessibility. So I've pulled the wiring back to where it comes from on the other side of the car, and I'm actually using Mike's sheathing here. It's actually a lot friendlier on the hands, because it's it's more flexible, less rigid, but equally good protection. So I may be converted to this. Doesn't look quite so sexy, but it's a lot easier. So then I'm just going to work out how I want to route this. Certainly not round that pipe, but I think I'm going to take it along the back here, because there's actually a little up under here. This is like a U piece of metal. So I've routed it straight back onto actually one of the gear change cables. Tied it on there, keep it away from the heat of the block, and then I'm going to bring it up and over, and strap it over there somewhere. Actually, I changed my mind. For the time being, I'm not going to strap it anywhere in case we need a little bit more length when we come to put everything back. So for now, I've just hooked it over that Jubilee clip, and we'll see what's what when we put the alternator and compressor back in. So I think that's it. What we do have is a box of goodies, including the protective plates that we need to remount again once we finish doing everything. There's a sump guard, potential sump guard, a spare ECU, which Mike eventually found. You might remember if you watched the whole series. We lost the first one, well, he found it again. And all kinds of other bits and pieces, I guess. Yeah, okay. Including some rags. Thanks, Mike. And I don't know if you spotted in the background at any point another fine Italian vehicle. Yes, made in Italy. A 1960s bumper car. What on earth is he doing with that? Watching everything I do and you're just concentrating on the Stratos, well, I understand. But at the same time, this lunatic is going to set a world speed record in a bumper car. That's the idea. You may not be familiar with Colin Furze. You probably are. He's a total nutcase, and he already set a speed limit at 100 miles an hour, just over, just literally like a fraction over, in a bumper car with the aid of the Stig and the BBC. I'm doing it without that kind of funding, and I'm looking for funding, so there is a GoFundMe if you want to contribute to my lunacy. We're aiming for 125 miles an hour, because 100 miles an hour is, it's just not fast enough, is it? Anyway, back to the Stratos. I think we're kind of done for the time being until Mike gets everything shipshape down his end with the various parts. We also took off the tensioner wheel. That's this bolt here, just in case, but it looked intact. And we're going to get all new belts and panties and put it back together and get it back on the road again. Looking forward to that, obviously. So I think that's about it for this episode. It's back under its covers, ready for Mike to turn up hopefully next weekend with all the sorted parts and put it all back together again. Take it for a test run while I'm in the UK. So as usual, thanks for watching, and do tune in again next time to see if it's back up and running, which I very much hope it will be. And of course, subscribe if you haven't already. To watch my lunacy.